Welcome to our channel, Mystery Insights. Today we will continue our list of top 10 serial killers of all time. If you have not seen the first part of this video, click on the I button or check out our channel to find the video. Before we dive in, hit the subscribe button to get more mysterious and crime-related videos and documentaries. Let's get started. Number 5 on our list is Chikatilo, also known as the Butcher of Rostov. Chikatilo cast a long shadow over the Soviet Union in the latter half of the 20th century. Responsible for the murders of at least 50 people, he remains one of history's most prolific serial killers. Born in 1936 in Soviet Ukraine, Chikatilo's childhood was marked by hardship. He struggled socially and academically, experiencing an early sexual assault that some believe may have fueled his later crimes. Despite these challenges, he became a teacher. Chikatilo's killing spree began in 1978. He preyed on young women and children, luring them away from bus stops and train stations with promises or threats. Once isolated, he would overpower them, often inflicting horrific sexual violence before brutally murdering them. His crimes were characterized by mutilation, necrophilia, and cannibalism. The Soviet government, clinging to the ideology that crime didn't exist in a socialist utopia, this delayed investigations and allowed Chikatilo to continue his reign of terror for over a decade. By the mid-1980s, the sheer number of victims and the increasing brutality of the crimes forced the authorities to acknowledge they had a serial killer on their hands. A dedicated task force, led by the brilliant investigator Viktor Burakov, was formed. In 1984, Chikatilo was actually arrested on suspicion of a minor crime. Police found a knife and other suspicious items, but a blood type mismatch led to his release. He was finally apprehended in 1990. Chikatilo's trial, televised across the Soviet Union, was a national trauma. The public recoiled from the details of his crimes, shattering their faith in the state's ability to protect them. In 1992, he was convicted of 52 murders and sentenced to death. He was executed in 1994. The Chikatilo case exposed the dark underbelly of Soviet society. Chikatilo's chilling crimes continue to serve as a stark reminder of the capacity for evil. At number 4, we have Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker. A serial killer, later dubbed the Night Stalker, was on the loose, striking terror into the hearts of residents. This predator was Richard Ramirez, and his crimes would leave a bloody trail across the state. In June 1984, he allegedly claimed his first victim, a 79-year-old woman, though this wasn't confirmed until much later through DNA evidence. A hiatus followed, but by March 1985, the attacks resumed. What started in Los Angeles County quickly spread, with Ramirez targeting victims across a wider area. His crimes were terrifyingly random. He didn't discriminate by age or gender, breaking into homes at night. Ramirez subjected his victims to horrific violence, including sexual assault, beatings, and often brutal murder. Adding to the terror, there was no clear pattern to the attacks. Wealthy neighborhoods and working-class areas were equally vulnerable. Ramirez often taunted his victims, drawing pentagrams or leaving satanic symbols at the crime scenes. The media frenzy surrounding the case only amplified the public's fear. The investigation was a complex web of jurisdictions, with multiple police agencies working together. A breakthrough came in August 1985, when a witness spotted Ramirez fleeing a crime scene and described his car. This, along with a set of stolen fingerprints, finally gave authorities a lead. Ramirez's capture was almost comical. He was recognized by a shop owner from a police sketch, while attempting to steal magazines featuring himself. His trial, which began in 1988, was a media spectacle. Ramirez reveled in the attention, often making bizarre outbursts and flashing satanic symbols. He was convicted in 1989 of 13 murders, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. Sentenced to death 19 times, Ramirez spent the rest of his life on California's death row, never expressing remorse for his crimes. He died in 2013, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can reside within a seemingly ordinary person. Coming in at number 3 is Pedro Alonso Lopez, the monster of the Andes. Lopez is believed to have murdered over 300 young girls in Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru during the 1970s and early 1980s. Pedro Alonso Lopez cast a long shadow across South America in the latter half of the 20th century. Earning the chilling moniker, the Monster of the Andes, Lopez is considered one of the most prolific serial killers in history, with a confirmed body count of over 110 and a self-proclaimed tally exceeding 300. Born in Colombia in 1948, Lopez's childhood was marred by violence and abuse. Kicked out by his mother for molesting his sister, he found himself on the streets. By his early teens, he was already exhibiting signs of dangerous behavior. Lopez's reign of terror began in the late 1960s. He preyed on young girls and women across Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador, targeting those most vulnerable street children and those from marginalized communities. His modus operandi was brutal and efficient. The sheer number of disappearances, particularly in Peru where poverty was rampant, went largely unnoticed for years. In 1980, Lopez's luck finally ran out. He was apprehended in Ambato, Ecuador, after attempting to abduct a young girl. A local community recognized him and intervened, leading to his arrest. The sheer volume of evidence in his possession, clothing scraps, photos, and personal belongings, painted a horrifying picture. Confronted with this undeniable proof, Lopez confessed to over 100 murders, providing chilling details that matched unsolved cases across the region. Despite the mountain of evidence, the legal system failed to deliver true justice. Extradited back to Colombia, he faced the possibility of execution, but prosecutors were unable to build a strong enough case for the death penalty. In 1994, Pedro Alonso Lopez vanished once more. He was last seen in a border town between Colombia and Venezuela. Authorities believe he may have continued his murderous rampage. And in 2022, Interpol issued a warrant for his arrest due to similarities in a recent murder case. While the official number of victims may never be known, the fear he instilled across South America remains a potent reminder of the monstrous acts a single individual can commit. At number 2, we have Gary Ridgway. Gary Ridgway, also known as the Green River Killer, cast a long shadow over the Pacific Northwest in the 1980s and 90s. While the exact number of victims is unknown, Ridgway confessed to a staggering number, making him one of America's most prolific serial killers. Ridgway, a seemingly ordinary truck painter, stalked his victims in the seedier areas of Seattle and Tacoma, Washington. His prey were women on the fringes of society, prostitutes, runaways, and those struggling with addiction. He lured them with promises or force, then strangled them, often dumping their bodies in wooded areas near the Green River, which gave him his infamous nickname. The first confirmed victim disappeared in 1982, but the killings likely began earlier. For over a decade, women vanished with little trace. Police struggled to connect the dots, hampered by the transient nature of Ridgway's victims and the lack of sophisticated forensic techniques available at the time. In 1984, advancements in DNA technology offered a glimmer of hope. Over time, investigators were able to link several murders, building a stronger case. A break came in 1998 when a match was made to Ridgway's DNA. Confronted with the evidence, Ridgeway readily admitted to his crimes. He wanted to avoid the death penalty and offered details on his killings in exchange for a life sentence. The sheer number of confessions, over 40 initially, with claims of up to 80, was staggering. However, some details were inconsistent, leading some to question the accuracy of his claims. In 2003, Ridgeway pleaded guilty to 49 murders and received 48 life sentences without the possibility of parole. The plea deal allowed for closure for some families, but the question of exactly how many lives Ridgeway took remains unanswered. Ridgeway's case exposed the vulnerability of marginalized women and the challenges of investigating serial killings when targeting those on the fringes of society. It also highlighted the power of advancements in forensic science and the importance of preserving evidence. The Green River case serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. Finally, at number 1, we have H.H. Holmes, often considered America's first serial killer. His reign of terror centered around a horrifying building he constructed in Chicago, a place that would become known as the Murder Castle. In 1886, Holmes arrived in Chicago, a bustling metropolis booming with activity due to the upcoming World's Fair. He established a pharmacy near a growing immigrant neighborhood and quickly gained the trust of the community. Holmes wasn't interested in dispensing medicine, he was preying on the vulnerable. He began targeting young women, often employees or guests at his boarding house. Across the street from his pharmacy, Holmes built a seemingly ordinary 3-story hotel. Gas lines allowed Holmes to render victims unconscious, and chutes dropped bodies into a quicklime pit for disposal. Holmes wasn't just a sadistic murderer, he was a methodical con artist. He would often charm and manipulate his victims, sometimes marrying them and taking control of their finances before their disappearances. Holmes's downfall came not from his own murders, but from his attempt to defraud an insurance company. Pitzel's wife, suspicious of her husband's disappearance, contacted authorities, setting the investigation in motion. The investigation led detectives to the Murder Castle, where the horrifying truth was unearthed. Hidden rooms revealed human remains, torture chambers, and evidence of unspeakable acts. While the exact number of victims remains unknown, estimates range from 20 to over 200. Holmes was arrested and ultimately convicted of only one murder. He confessed to 27 murders before his execution in 1896, but the true scale of his crimes will likely never be fully known. The Murder Castle was torn down, and the story of H.H. Holmes serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath a seemingly harmless facade. These 10 individuals represent some of the darkest aspects of human nature. While their crimes are horrifying, understanding their stories can help us recognize the warning signs and prevent future tragedies. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth stories of crime and justice. Until next time, stay safe and vigilant. And remember, if you or someone you know is in need of help, don't hesitate to reach out to the appropriate resources. Together, we can make a difference. And if you want to know about how a man trapped children and people in his killings as a joker, check out this video.